So now he's only 4th. Then we have
The Drivers' Championship is at the halfway stage and a very exciting one. Alain Prost, the world champion, the Frenchman in the McLaren, 39 points. Nigel Mansell, higher for Britain than anybody has been for a very, very long time. Just 1 point behind Prost, who has won 2 races this year, and Mansell has won 3. Ayrton Senna from Brazil in the Lotus, 2 victories, 36 points. Nelson Piquet, double world champion. Nigel Mansell's teammate, needs to do well in this race if he is to keep his world championship hopes alive. 23 points, 4th position. Keke Rosberg, ex-world champion, similarly needs to do well. And Jacques Laffite, for 42 years old and the oldest man in the race, is doing very well. McLaren, we have got used to winning the Constructors' Championship. This year, Williams are ahead of them, 5 points ahead of them. McLaren second. Lotus 36, 20 points behind McLaren. Then the French Ligier, the Italian Ferrari, many times a winner in the past, the Benetton BMW team, and tying for 7th place, Tyrrell and Brabham. So, what about the grid? Well, many of you may have seen what happened yesterday, but in pole position for the 20th time in his career is Nelson Piquet from Brazil in the Williams. In second position, it's Nigel Mansell in the other Williams, then Ayrton Senna in the Lotus, Gerhard Berger in the Benetton BMW. Keke Rosberg is 5th in the McLaren, and his teammate Alain Prost, the world champion, in 6th position. Last year at the European Championship, you'll remember, Prost did a great sprint onto the grass at the start of the race because he was down on the grid there. Now, the figures mean that Nelson Piquet there in the Williams, 9 points for a victory in Brazil, and then he has 3 other points-winning positions in the races that he has driven so far. San Marino 2nd, Canada 3rd, France 3rd, totaling 23. Piquet, by the way, had a major turbo blow-up today, but there is Nigel Mansell, 2nd on the grid, very happy about his position. When I was talking to him earlier, he said he felt he would have had another pole position had it not been for the fact that he had some turbo problems earlier in the practice yesterday. Well, and incidentally, Nelson Piquet is not in the best position on the grid for the start at Brands. Traditionally, the pole position man is always on the right-hand side of the grid, but in fact it is advantageous to be on the left-hand side of the grid, which is where Nigel Mansell is. I've explained before, and I'll explain again, that those covers on the tyres are electrically heated blankets to make sure that the temperature of the tyre carcass and the tyre compound is as near as possible at racing temperature when the light goes to green. Ayrton Senna still not in the car, taking a little last-minute liquid refreshment. The very serious Brazilian who is totally dedicated to... thank you, Ayrton, just to prove me wrong. 2 wins this year in Spain and Detroit, and this is his 37th Grand Prix. He's won 4 of them, and he's had a meteoric career. There you see his results, because he's got 2 wins, Spain and Detroit, 9 points for each of those, 2 second places in Brazil and Belgium, 3rd place in Monaco, 5th in Canada, and that gives him those 36 points. Nigel Stepney is just cheerfully wrung the neck of his chief mechanic on the car. Now they're going through the ritual of tightening the belts. And I better apologise straight away because I see now it's not Nigel Stepney. But they're going through the ritual of tightening the belts. The driver can't do this because those belts have to be cinched up so tight that the driver cannot possibly, from a seating position, do it. So the 2 crutch straps are tight, the waist strap is tight, and the shoulder straps because there are 6 of them, are done by the mechanic. The G-forces here at Brands and anywhere else for that matter are massive, and they have to be practically solid in the car. Gerhard Berger. Who is Gerhard Berger? Well, he's in 4th position, and for that matter, he's not even in the car, as Senna isn't. But Berger is Austrian. He's comparatively new. This is only his 2nd full season in Grand Prix racing. He drove in the ATS team before, and with no disrespect to them, he regrettably hadn't got much chance of doing well there because the car wasn't good enough. But now that he's in the Benetton BMW team, this young Austrian is really able to show his very considerable class. He started off with 3 points positions at the beginning of the season, with a 3rd at San Marino and 2 6ths in Brazil and Spain. He's flagged a bit since then because he's actually failed to finish in Monaco, Canada and in Detroit and France. But he's going extremely well at Brands. The powerful BMW engine is very well suited to this circuit because it has excellent torque. And he's on Pirelli tyres, unlike most of the others who are on Goodyears. And Pirelli tyre runners are pretty well up in the grid order today. 1982 world champion Keke Rosberg, the Finn. The cheerful Finn, the very witty Finn, who can give you a sharp rejoinder in English quicker than most English men can, who has got possibly the best reflexes in Grand Prix racing today, who spent 4 years and 4 very successful years with the Williams team before deciding this year to join McLaren when the great Niki Lauda retired. And as I said earlier on, Keke Rosberg, by his high standards, has not yet got his act together properly this year. 17 points means he's in only 17th position in the World Championship. In 5th position in the World Championship. And the highest he's finished is 2nd in Monaco. Yes, I know that's good, but his next best finishes have been 3/4. And similarly, world champion Alain Prost, as you heard him explaining to Barry Gill, does not rate Brands Hatch amongst his more successful circuits. Doesn't mean to say he doesn't like it, but he, through a variety of reasons, hasn't done as well here as he has at most other circuits. Which doesn't mean to say he won't do extremely well here today. He's the 3rd highest point scorer in Grand Prix racing at the present moment. 3rd only behind Niki Lauda and Jackie Stewart. 325.5 points Alain Prost has scored. And this is his 98th Grand Prix. His statistical record is actually not quite as good as Jackie Stewart's, but it is sensational nevertheless. Matteo Fabi, the little quiet Italian, who I describe as being so laid back he almost falls over. He's very shy, he's very introverted. Amongst other things, he runs a talc manufacturing business in Italy. His brother Corrado is a brilliant driver, younger brother, Formula 2 ex-champion of Europe. But Matteo Fabi there in the Benetton BMW has also had a tremendously successful past career driving in the Brabham team and in America. He took pole at Indianapolis and made the fastest lap there in 1983. He finished 2nd in the American Kart Championship in 1983. He finished 2nd in the American Can-Am Championship in 1981. But he's yet to really hit the jackpot in Grand Prix racing.
Well,
some people, I think, are going to have difficulty seeing anything, but they're having a go up the hoardings, in the trees, all around the circuit. There are people looking to see what is happening at Brands.
I've not had the opportunity to observe, who are here to enjoy the British Grand Prix. The weather is right enough, but very minutes to go. The stands are full.
Well, now with South Bank and everywhere else at Brands all agog and the tension mounting and the heat rising, look at the heat haze. The circuit is getting ready, it is cleared and ready for action, and the grid is being cleared. This is the evocative time before the start of the Grand Prix, when the people, the mechanics, the friends, the sponsors and everyone else who have been in that privileged position of being down there amongst the cars and the drivers is told to leave the grid. Then people here and ourselves can see who is actually there, and we will see in a moment those two FW11 Paddock Hill designed Williams cars on the front row of the grid. And I think the last time that we had two cars from the same constructor on the front row of the grid was, if my memory serves me right, in Holland last year when the two Lotuses were there. Well, there is the grid. See that Derek Warwick is in 9th position, Johnny Dumfries is 10th, Brundle is in 11th place, Alan Jones for Australia in the Lola Haas with its Ford engine is in 14th place, Patrick Torbay is in 17th place, and incidentally both the Lola Haas's went extremely well. They've got in warm-up this morning. They have a revised specification for the Ford V6 turbo engine, which is giving them more power. Jonathan Palmer, the final British runner in the Zach Speed car, is in 22nd position on the grid. And so now it is all ready to go for 75 laps, and that's nearly 200 miles, a long, hard, grueling race.
Yes, a big moment of tension for the drivers. At long last, they're all on their own for the weekend. Engine started. Nelson Piquet, of course, had a problem with his car in the warm-up this morning, that his race car trouble with the turbo. They have in fact changed engines, and he's still in. Apparently they just changed the turbos on Nelson's car, so he's in his race car. He went out in the spare car this morning, wasn't at all happy with the way that handled. And here they go away on the warm-up lap. Round Druids Bend, slowest corner on the circuit, taken in second gear and accelerating away down the hill. New bottom bend taken nearly flat. See the cars going from side to side. That's to try and get heat into the tyres, to warm up the tyres. They work best when they're hot at the right operating temperature. Something a little bit over 200 degrees Fahrenheit is when the tyres work best. Through Hawthorne's the quickest corner on the circuit and one of the most difficult. Coming into Hawthorne's, the cars are doing something like 180 miles an hour. And there we see the aerial view from the airship looking down on Brands Hatch as the cars go away around the back of the circuit. Through Dingledell into a very difficult right-hander, and then to Stirling as the left-handed bend, and then they accelerate away towards Clearways and then round the start-finish line. And here comes Nelson Piquet leading the field round. He'll slow them right down. So so they don't have to sit on the grid too long. The red light does not go on until everybody is in position, so the front men don't want to arrive too soon. Keep the engine running, the water temperature going up, the clutch dragging.
Great applause from the crowd as they go by. I was almost expecting them to do the Mexico football trick and give us the Ripple stand up and sit down effect. But as James says, Nelson Piquet, with lots of experience, this is the 20th time he has been in pole position, leading the rest of the 26 competitors up to the grid for 75 laps. It's one of the longer races, 195.75 miles. There shouldn't be too much of a fuel problem, but I'm quite sure we're going to have plenty of excitement with tyre changes, as we did in France, although currently no one is expected to make more than one stop. The lights for red, and go! And Mansell is away. He's been passed by Senna. He has been passed by Berger. He's been passed by both the McLarens. Piquet leads. Senna is second. Berger is third. A terrible start for Nigel Mansell, and a big coming together at Paddock.
Yes, big banging match towards the back of the field. Nigel Mansell looked as if he burnt his clutch on the line. He moved away quite well. Then the car slowed down, and he does stand a chance as Mansell comes slowly trickling down the hill through it. But if he can cool his clutch down now, and we've possibly got a red flag.
Yes, we have got a red flag at the start and finish point and black flags everywhere else around the circuit. The rule is that when the race is being stopped, as it is, that is the procedure.
And it looks like an action replay of 1976. Race stopped after a start line accident, and a very bad start for Nigel Mansell. Can this be his lucky day on the restart? He's going to have a second crack at it.
Yes, I remember casting my mind back, and incidentally one of the problems was that one of the arrows went sideways, and it looks to me as though Jacques Laffite is trapped in his car there. There's Christian Danner running back. He's obviously the man that had the problem in the arrows, running back. And you may wonder why on earth he's got his steering wheel with him. The answer is that that's his personal one. They are detachable, and he's just going to slot it onto the spare car. But this is bad news. Out goes the arrows. That's Jonathan Palmer's Zach Speed in the foreground, and I am concerned at the present moment at the fact that all those marshals are around the Ligier of Jacques Laffite, which has obviously gone into the Armco heavily, and I fear that the ever popular Frenchman, who in this race has, by starting it, equalled the all-time record of Graham Hill, 176 Grand Prix drives, may be in trouble. Well, there's Andrea de Cesaris walking away with his seat, or part of it, for the same reason that Christian Danner. So that means an arrows has been involved. There's Danner. It means that I wonder what Christian Danner's rushing along like that for. Possibly to get to his spare car quickly. Well, it means there's an arrow, and that's Derek Warwick. No, it's Nannini. It's Alessandro Nannini. So very clearly, both the Minardis have been involved. The arrows of Danner has been involved. Jacques Laffite has been involved, and Palmer, and there's Boutsen. So that's the other arrows. Well, of course, a lot of the drivers now, he's talking to Caspar Arne, who is responsible for the timing here. There is Nigel Mansell. Now, as James said, this may well have been Nigel's salvation. He's making the car finished signal across his chest. They're pushing his car away. Now, James, this is tremendously interesting, because it reminds me of the situation in 1976 when you went out and the British crowd nearly revolted when it was announced that you were not going to be allowed to start in the spare car.
That's right, there was a lot of confusion about the rules that day, and they didn't know, but obviously our main concern at the moment is for Jacques Laffite, but we're not in a position to give you any news. But in 76, at least I was able to restart in the car that I'd originally started in. I had suspension damage in a similar first corner accident. But Nigel, if he has done his clutch, which is what it looked like to me, is going to have to use the spare car. There's no question about that, because of course to change the clutch they've got to take the engine out and change the whole system, and they simply won't have time. Now there are the marshals, and the one thing that we can be confident of is that Laffite will be receiving the best possible attention. With the British marshals are the best in the world, and just await news. And here we see the start again. Now we'll have a look to see if we can see how this accident developed. We see Mansell now. He got away cleanly off the line, but he's slowing down on the right-hand side at the top of your picture. And then, in fact, we're following the leaders, so we missed the accident, which happened under braking for Paddock Bend, coming into the corner. And at the front of the field, all is well and good. Good, clean start from that. There's Mansell just coming to the picture, going slowly, with a queue forming behind him, and that may inadvertently have had something to do with the accident, because he was holding people up. He's going slowly up the hill on the left.
Well, as that finishes, one quick aside of interest is that if Nigel Mansell is going to have to start in the spare car, he must be praying for time, because that spare car is set up for Nelson Piquet. Nelson Piquet is the team leader. Nelson Piquet therefore has the access by right to the spare car, and it will be set up for him. And if it has got to be changed, the pedals have got to be changed, the seat has got to be changed, the windscreen has got to be changed, and that takes time. But there's going to be about half an hour, I think. Indeed, as I talk to you, I get the official information that there is going to be an official delay as Nigel Mansell talks to Alan Henry of Motoring News and Peter Windsor. Well, very, very unfortunate this, to put it mildly, because a lot of people out there around the circuit will be relying on the excellent public address system here to keep them informed. They've seen the cars not at all. They heard them approach and will just then see, well, they have seen them go by, but not at full racing speed for the whole lap, because the flags were out very, very quickly indeed. And we are waiting for news to pass on to you about Jonathan Palmer. He's got a spare car in the Zaxby team. Christian Danner will have a spare car from the Arrows team. I'm waiting to hear about Jacques Laffite. You can see the cluster of vehicles at Paddock Bend, the first right-hander on the circuit, which they take at about 165 miles an hour during the race. Nigel Mansell, obviously, I've been amazed, absolutely amazed for the last 2 days at how little the stress of the occasion and the fantastic glare of the media publicity seemed to be getting to him. But he was obviously very considerably psyched up at the beginning of the race. Maybe tried just a little too hard, because there are no team orders in the Williams team, and it was clearly going to be a race at the front between him and Nelson Piquet. And Piquet, with only one victory to Nigel Mansell's 3, would be as determined to win as Nigel was. Those of you who know the rules of Grand Prix racing will know what is going to happen. But for those of you who don't, I will tell you that the official statement has been made that there is going to be a completely new race over the full distance of 75 laps, with the same grid order as before, and with Nigel Mansell able to use the spare car. And in half an hour, which is the gap that was given before the planned restart of the race. That should give the Williams, the very excellent and experienced Williams mechanics, plenty of time to make the changes they need to make.
Yes, and it's clearly a mistake by Nigel Mansell there at the start, because he knows about the possibility of burning the clutch, and I think he's a little bit over-enthusiastic. You take a little risk because you get the best start if you slip the clutch rather than spin the wheels, but if you ride on the clutch you take the risk of burning it, and undoubtedly that's what Nigel did. He cooked the clutch, lost his grip, and he has been reprieved, but I'm sure in a way that he won't get all happy about. We're very, very concerned about Jacques Laffite, who's still being attended to in his car at Paddock Bend.
Number 5, the spare car for Nigel Mansell is being pushed out onto the grid. It is interesting, but we've now got 2 drivers who use that car this weekend. Nelson Piquet this morning, and indeed what team have you got for the pit? I've got several things to this time. First of all, the restart. The race now goes back right back to the plan. Refuel. There have been secrets. Nothing can happen. Started, nothing can happen all the night. So they can refuel, they can make the car, they build their life, go right back to the beginning of the season. The only thing I don't have yet is the time yet. From the pit itself, in fact, I now understand that he's going back to his third step when he started under the great stress of the power of the former engine. Second, Johansson on the radiator. Some flexibility of radiator that he's making the car. Thierry, as he doesn't know what happened to somebody else back, he doesn't know who he wants. So, one of the chain reaction in the back half of the field, as I said, the back half of the field, the middle of the field downwards, and some of the tail end getting involved, both themselves. Normally, I think these possible problems happen up to the front of the field. This time it wasn't there. So, all the front runners, as far as I can tell, you're there in the season, but I think they're all intact and are not. So it is important to say. Where he can with another car. At the same time, that car is the same car, built by the small specific setup. How long they've got to it, he said, I don't know. Still a lot of drama going on over there at Paddock Hill Bend, but one of the things that I must admit is that according to our calculations, based on what we can see on the grid, we've actually taken out virtually the last 9 cars from Stephen Johansson down, so with a little bit of disruption. Thierry, Palmer, Dana, Sani, Rockgatter, and Alan Prost. But we do see one of the West taxis is pushed down the pit road, and now we've got another man in the pit. Yes, well, I don't know. He may have said very, very one of the Nelson Piquet, the General Piquet, with a camera on it, and watch Thierry Boutsen's car coming across, and it appears to get involved in, yes, now this was it touch. I don't think it was touch, but it certainly seems to turn left, judging from the view that we had from the General Piquet, which had a camera mounted on it. It looked as though Boutsen's car veered to the left and then turned left. Now, I'm looking at Long Cooper Straight now to see that one of the medallions has been taken away, and there we see number 22 being lifted back. That's the Mozilla of Pierre Carlo Gonzalez. Now, how many more? And 22 is in fact Alan Berg's car being suspended back. Coming back onto the grid now, we've got the West Zaxby. Which one is it? Number 14, I think. Which means it's Jonathan Farmer's spare car. And now 28, Stephen Johansson in the car and being pushed backwards to take his position on the grid. Well, of course, this is Grand Prix, there are spare cars. So, very
Please go to Paddock Hill Bend. Would Gerard and LaRouche please go to Paddock Hill Bend immediately? Thank you.
Put it down.
Well, the Nigel Mansell situation change the car. He just lost the car. He's been using it and everything else good. Jacques Laffite down is being carefully gone out of the car. May or may not still be in it, but he won't for a while. But I'm told that he's been through from there, and all will be well. Of course, we're going to lose Jacques from the friendly that eventually he can hear it. Otherwise, it's quite now. We don't have time yet. We know about that because of the removal of the crash area. Anthony, I'm hoping that you can hear me because of course we've been spectating on some of the difficulties. They are of course allowed to be fuel on the grid. I think any of them will need to. Using that they will, because they've done a warming up lap and they've done a high-speed start, and therefore they will use quite a lot of fuel. And actually could it not? Well, I'll just check on that, but I would have thought they would want to use the maximum they're allowed to use. I mean, 195 litres is ration, and if you're allowed to go back to square one, they'll have to do another warm-up lap. We are watching a replay again, Anthony, on BBC television, and you can probably see it on Derby's screen on that bank. Now, I don't think I pretty that there is a chance that actually 15 by anyone. Now, it does rather what the digital computer screens tell them in the car about their rate of consumption. They know how much they should be using at every stage, and they have to control that so that they certainly will want to start with their full ration of 195 litres. I'm just walking down now to see whether Boutsen is about. We can just get his comments, because I have second-hand comments that he's being hunted from behind. The car is here, the pencil car, working on it. There's Thierry Boutsen, he's watching it on start at this moment, actually. Thierry, I think he comes up with it. That's great.
Thierry Boutsen, confusion reigns here at the moment, but you are the man who knows better than anybody else what happened. What did happen?
I have no idea. No idea. I was in the middle of it. I mean, I started to brake for the corner and everything was under control, no problem. And suddenly the car pulled to the left really bad. I couldn't control it and I hit the wall with the tires. The car spun and came back into the middle of the track, and that was a big disaster. but I don't know why it went to the left. I have no idea. Maybe someone pushed me, maybe something broke in the car. I have no idea.
What happened then, Thierry?
I turned round and stopped everybody going by.
Did Jonathan Palmer's, how many cars hit you?
I don't know. I just closed my eyes. You know, in this condition you don't see much. The car kept on turning, run, and it was lucky it stopped at one stage, and I hope nobody is hurt.
And you are okay?
I'm okay, yeah, thank you.
And you're going to start, what, in the spare car?
I've got a spare car, I'm going to start in the spare car, yes.
Well, I hope it's a little less dramatic, Thierry, and thanks for talking to us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Former world champion Alan Jones in a bit of excitement this afternoon. What happened, Alan?
Well, I don't really know, to be honest, Barry. I was just going up into Paddock, and the next minute I saw Thierry Boutsen come screaming alongside me, and then right in front of me, and then into the Armco. So presumably something must have gone wrong with the car, because you know, I don't think it was acceleration or anything like that happened. And then all hell broke loose.
Could you describe the hell somewhat?
Well, I was too busy looking for holes to get into at that stage of the game, but there was lots of fiberglass and stuff going everywhere.
And you're okay, and what about your car?
Yeah, no, my car's good as gold, ready to go.
Ready for a second go?
Yeah, why not?
Alan, thanks for talking to us. Thank you. Philip Streff, we saw some very exciting pictures from the camera on your car, but what was it like from the cockpit?
I saw only Boutsen hurt the wall on the left side and came back on the road at just the time to take the way on the right, and I missed it. I was very lucky, and I think the car behind me didn't miss it and hurt it. And
so you're all right for the restart?
Yes, my car is all right, it's no problem.
But an exciting start to the afternoon?
Yes, especially many cars are broken, so I don't know how many cars will start again.
Thank you, Philippe. Thank you. Jonathan Palmer, I do apologise. We all seem to talk to you after a big accident here at Brands Hatch, but you were right in the middle of this one. What happened?
Yeah, sadly this time I had really nowhere to go. Made a good start initially, but up the front I could see that Boutsen's arrows for some reason veered off to the left. It hit the barrier on the left-hand side, and then it started to come back, by which time I was trying to steer to the right to obviously try and keep away from it. But perhaps partly due to the slope here, it was sliding down the track. It was absolutely broadside, and I was trapped around, and I just ended up hitting him absolutely fair and square in the middle of his car. And then it was as if all of us were wrapped up in one huge sort of accident, and the whole lot got shoved around another 50 metres towards the edge of the track.
Well, the first question obviously is, are you okay? I mean, you look okay.
I'm fine actually, thanks. Yeah, it wasn't a problem for me. And I'm not sure about Jacques. I don't know whether I think he's hurt his leg. I'm not sure.
Well, we understand he has broken his leg, but what about your car? And are you going to start the second race?
Yeah, we'll certainly be starting. Unfortunately, I've got a spare car here, which we're just preparing now. It looks like it's going to be a somewhat depleted field, which is a pity. But I'm afraid Brands tends to have these rather exciting occurrences. Let's put it like that.
Well, with the exception of Jack, for whom we're all very sorry, we're glad everyone else is okay. Thanks for talking to us, Jonathan.
Thanks.
Nigel Mansell, a dramatic start to Brands and one we didn't expect.
I mean, just incredible. I have no idea what happened behind, but I got off in first gear and I was going to get the jump on my teammate because I was going away from him. As soon as I changed gear, something exploded at the rear of the car and the car turned sideways a little bit. I just controlled it and then sort of went down paddock, and the next thing I know, as I was coming out of Druids, I saw the black flags come out, and you know, obviously has been a very big shunt.
Well, although it's very unlucky for some drivers, it's safe to say, isn't it, Nigel, this is rather lucky for you?
Well, I don't know that it is really, because I used a spare car on the first day and it didn't work, and Nelson used a spare car today and it didn't work for him in the warm-up, and although we're pretty happy that they've found the problem, we're getting into a car which hasn't been set up for me, and you know, it's going to be trust to luck whether it's going to go or not.
But an improvement on the other one.
And that's for sure, but you know, I'd rather the accident not happen and I'd be out the race, because I believe Jacques has hurt himself, and he's a great personality and a great driver, and I just hope it's not too serious.
Nigel, we share those sentiments and we respect you for saying them. Can I just ask you, is this adding to the enormous pressure that you've been on the whole of this week? I've never known a man under such pressure. Even James Hunt, I don't think, had this sort of trouble in 1976.
I know it is quite immense. I mean, certainly now, not so much from the crowd point of view, but from the point of view of getting in a car that I haven't driven today or yesterday, and not really knowing what it's going to be like, and that can be a little difficult.
Well, you've about a couple of 100,000 people, not to mention the viewers behind you, Nigel. I hope it's a better start and we have a complete race.
Fingers crossed. Thanks, Barry.
Almost 1 hour after the original start, there is Jacques Laffite being lifted into the ambulance to be taken to Sidcup Hospital. Now, we understand, and I emphasise that this is the latest information that we have, that both legs have been broken. He has been on a drip feed, is conscious, he has been talking to his friends, and we are all hoping and praying that the tremendously popular and ever cheerful Frenchman is all right. This is sadly reminiscent of the accident which happened to Venezuelan driver Johnny Chicotto. And here's another development, and I regret to say another delay, but it is for the very best possible reason, which you can see in front of you now, because of the decision to use the helicopter as opposed to transporting Laffite to Sidcup Hospital all the way by road, which could be very jarring and difficult for him. We have to wait for the helicopter to return after it has taken him to the hospital, and that means to say there'll be another half-hour's delay. So let me very quickly fill you in with a reconstruction of what appears to have happened. As you heard from Thierry Boutsen, his arrows suddenly, for an inexplicable reason to him, slewed sideways as he was making his way forward from 13th place on the grid, went into the Armco on the left on the approach to the first right-hander at Paddock Bend. Boutsen's car was flung by the terrific force back into the path of the 9 or so cars, 10 or so cars that were still behind him. There was nowhere for them to go. He was immediately T-boned by Jonathan Palmer's Zach Speed, and everyone else pulled to the right. Many of them went into the Armco.
In 1984, so let's hope that Martin can bring the Tyrrell into the point. It would be very nice to see him picking up the World Championship points here at Grand Prix today, and that certainly is a very real possibility. Yes, the situation now is the helicopter that takes Jacques Laffite to the hospital, and on the moment of the next under 15 and Beverly, and he has had, despite his retirement after 15 Grand Prix, having been kept going, really hard among the most experienced Grand Prix drivers. And 12 victories, first one, the first Grand Prix in Spain, back in 1975, 7 years ago, and his first victory came in 77 when he won in Austria with Jacques. His most recent victory was at Las Vegas in 1981 in Williams. That was the year after he won his World Championship. Well, I might ask to remind those of you that are performing in Solidar and please get going. Then we will be walking down. Now, to do with the
There they are on the warm-up lap. And to update you on the Jacques Laffite situation, the popular Frenchman has been taken by helicopter to Sidcup Hospital. We understand that he has 2 broken legs. He has been having a conversation with his very great friend Alain Prost, who is now on this parade lap for the 2nd restart. And as far as we know, 22 cars are going to be taking the start again. Missing will be Jacques Laffite, Christian Danner from the Arrows, Ghinzani in the Osella, and Berg in the Osella, and Nannini will, we understand, be restarting from the pit lane. They've managed to get his Minardi fixed, but not before the pit lane was closed 15 minutes before the restart, and there he is waiting to go out. And I remember Alain Prost did that from South Africa at one time and went through the field like a hot knife through butter. I don't think Nannini will be doing that, but here they come out of clearways, and in pole position Nelson Piquet. Next to him, Nigel Mansell in the spare Williams. And by the way, we're not at all sure that it was a drive shaft that broke. He just said that something had exploded behind him. And from Nigel Mansell's point of view, the regrettable cessation of the race due to Laffite's accident was an unlooked-for piece of luck. He has said that he would far rather not be restarting if, by so doing, Laffite could be okay. But anyway, Senna is in 3rd position on the grid, Berger 4th, Rosberg 5th, Prost the world champion 6th, Theo Fabi 7th in the 2nd Benetton. It's going to be a full distance race, we hope this time, 72 laps. Green and go, and they all get away well. Piquet leads, Mansell is 2nd into clearways this time, and we're watching very carefully as they go round Paddock, and they are all round. Piquet leads, Mansell 2nd, Berger is in 3rd position, Ayrton Senna in the Lotus is down to 4th. He is already being challenged by one of the McLarens, and it is that of Keke Rosberg ahead of his teammate Alain Prost, followed by Theo Fabi round the left-hander at Surtees into the fastest part of the course, Pilgrim's Drop, and there's a race for 2nd place because Berger has taken it from Nigel Mansell. Gerhard Berger is now in 2nd place. Mansell is down to 3rd in the car that is strange to him. In 4th place is Berger, Senna and Rosberg and Prost as the rest of them go through.
Yes, well, it stands to reason that Mansell in a strange car in the spare car was a little bit slow around South Bank, and Berger got the run on him, got the momentum coming through the corner to take it past on the straight.
And there he goes, followed by Mansell, Senna, Rosberg, Prost, Theo Fabi, Alboreto. The leader crosses the line. It is Piquet, Berger, young Gerhard Berger, the Austrian in the Benetton BMW, challenging ex-world champion Nelson Piquet. Mansell still in 3rd place, but Senna, Rosberg, Prost, Fabi, Alboreto, Arnoux, Alan Jones well up, followed by Derek Warwick, and already on this 2.61 mile lap, they are into their 2nd lap. 75 lap race, long way to go. There go the 2 Tyrrells of Martin Brundle and Philippe Streff. And by the way, there is a camera on Philippe Streff's car. And it's Nelson Piquet. Now Mansell, meantime, at racing speed, is attuning himself and getting used to the Williams.
Yes, it's going to be an interesting thing for Mansell, because Piquet used the same spare car this morning in the warm-up and was not happy with it at all. But so far, Nigel Mansell's been feeling his way, but he looks to be coping with it pretty well, and he's certainly not dropping back.
Over the line they go. Mansell looks to be very comfortable. Senna is still 4th. Rosberg 5th. Prost is 6th. Farby is 7th, Alboreto is 8th, Arnoux is 9th, Jones is 10th, 11th is Derek Warwick, ahead of his teammate Riccardo Patrese. And in case you don't know, Riccardo Patrese is driving the BT54 Brabham, that is to say last year's car, and Mansell, obviously getting the hang of things, is closing the gap between himself and Berger's BMW powered Benetton, going for second position, and Mansell is through up into second place on lap 3. To the vast delight of the crowd. Now, is he going to do anything about his teammate, Nelson Piquet? These two cars, in terms of handling and speed and fuel consumption and everything else that you need at this brand circuit, are, I think, a considerable amount ahead of the rest, and that does include the McLarens. So now, Nigel Mansell, having got to within striking distance of his teammate, Nelson Piquet, who's won one Grand Prix this year compared with Nigel Mansell's 2, can study form, and he studies form from a gap of 1.7 seconds behind the Brazilian.
Yes, at the moment the interesting thing is going to be what the two Williams drivers do about each other, because the Williams car, as you rightly say, Murray, certainly seems to be the best car at the moment. Their Honda engine work is currently certainly the most fuel efficient, can get the most power with the limited 195 litres of fuel that the rules allow. But the drivers have no team orders, and we'll just have to see if Mansell can start to challenge Piquet, which I am fairly confident he will, is how they're going to tackle the problem of racing each other.
Well, there is the Englishman. He's very comfortably placed in comparison with Nelson Piquet. Piquet leads, Mansell second, Berger third, Senna fourth, Rosberg fifth, Prost sixth, Farby seventh, the first two. They're coming through to complete lap 4 now. I told you the gap was 1.68 seconds. It is now 1.31 seconds. So for what it's worth, and it probably doesn't mean very much at this stage of the race, Nigel Mansell has reduced the gap by half a second. Well, we have Nigel Mansell in second position for Australia, and I know that we have many viewers out there. Alan Jones is well up. He's in 10th position in the extra-powered Lola Haas with its Ford engine. Derek Warwick is in 11th place in the BT55 Brabham. Johnny Dumfries is in 12th position. Martin Brundle is in 13th place, and Jonathan Palmer in the Zaxby is in 19th position. And we are now on lap 5 in this 80-lap race.
Well, the two Williamses are certainly starting to put their stamp on this race. They're pulling away steadily, opening a little gap. Berger is hanging on in 3rd place. Senna in 4th place has got Rosberg attacking him hard, but that's going to be a tough one for Rosberg. And there they go, Rosberg following Senna, but Senna is definitely a hard man to pass. And then back behind Rosberg is his teammate, world champion Alain Prost, who's not had a happy weekend with the handling of his car. He's never really got to grips with it. They don't know what the trouble is. Just saw Prost in the background there. But the Williams is really looking very steady on the track and pretty dominant as they pull away.
Well, Rosberg is getting very close to Senna, but even more importantly, as far as the race for the lead is concerned, Nigel Mansell is starting to close very definitely on Nelson Piquet. There's the battle for 3rd and 4th, Senna and Rosberg. Rosberg in the McLaren, his first year with the Woking concern. There was Berger going through. He's in 3rd position. You can see the gap. There's the 3rd, 4th and 5th men in the background. In 6th place, Alain Prost. Still ahead of 7th place man, Theo Farby. The leaders coming up to cross the line, and the gap now is just a whisker over 1 second between Piquet and Mansell. Berger still 3rd. There is Rosberg in 5th place, ahead of him Senna.
Nigel Mansell is thinking carefully. I have to say, I think the best thing for him to do now, rather than challenge his teammate Nelson Piquet, would be to try and turn down his boost and follow him to save fuel, because he's able to catch Piquet, but he's not catching him fast enough that he's going to find him easy to pass. So he should be conserving his fuel until after they've stopped the tyres. Give himself a little bit of fuel in hand so he can turn the boost up for overtaking purposes. But I really think that Nigel's best tactics now would be to sit and to follow and to go on the economy run until the pit stop.
A very interesting theory, and Nelson Piquet is not daft, of course. He may observe that Mansell's doing that, and if Piquet did the same thing, that would give Berger, who is in third position about 5.7 seconds behind Piquet, the opportunity to close up. So Piquet certainly can't slow down too much. 1.64 seconds, the gap is increasing, if anything. Berger goes through in third position. It's still Senna fourth, Rosberg fifth, Prost sixth. As you look at the two Williams cars exiting Druid Hill in second gear. Now they're into the Cooper Straight. Round Surtees, the left-hander, onto Pilgrim's Drop, where they accelerate up to about 185 miles an hour on the downhill section. Start the climb up to Hawthorne Bend. Distance in this 75-lap race, and Nigel Mansell sees Piquet ahead of him, and will, if he looks in his mirrors, that's where he went off in practice yesterday, by the way. If he looks in his mirrors, you'll see a clear road behind him, because Berger is now some 6 seconds behind the two flying Williams cars, who've got the race very much under control. And Piquet is looking increasingly as though he's got the lead under control, because he's punching away. It's a 2-second gap now. He's easing out the time between himself and Nigel Mansell. What we never know, of course, is to what extent the drivers, as James has mentioned earlier on, are using their boost controls. They can turn up the turbocharger press up at will, and Keke Rosberg is in the pits already. Keke Rosberg, who was in 5th position, is in the pits, and very clearly this is not a tyre change.
No, he's getting out of the car, so that looks like the day's all over for Keke. It'll be a huge disappointment to him, because he struggled this season when he's been in the Grand Prix, but this is the first race and he's really put one over Prost. He was quicker in all practice sessions, quicker in the warm-up this morning, and really looked good, and he must be bitterly disappointed.
Yes, you can see it written all over his body as Nelson Piquet comes through to complete his 9th lap, that Rosberg is indeed bitterly disappointed, because he really needed to do something here at Brands Hatch in the British Grand Prix if his World Championship chances were to be kept alive. He was in 5th position, well, still is for that matter, but 22 points behind championship leader Alain Prost, and he's completely lost the chance now. So there is the leader, Nelson Piquet. Second is Nigel Mansell. The next car you see will be the Benetton BMW of Gerhard Berger, and you can tell what a gap there is. Berger goes through in 3rd position. 4th is Ayrton Senna. There, closing on him, is Prost, who's moved up a place, and that means to say that Theo Fabi is 6th, and Alboreto is 7th, followed by Arnoux 8th.
It certainly looks to me as if Mansell has turned down his boost and is happy to follow Piquet, and I'm sure that's the right tactics. Of course, what I should explain to people at home who don't know a lot about it really is that when they turn the boost down to go slower, the driver himself has to work harder to make up the time around the corner. So the way you save fuel is, of course, to make the car follow the line of least resistance. And although Nigel is doing a slow economy run, or should be doing at the moment, he is working extra hard in order to keep up, because the idea being he's using less power from his engine than Nelson Piquet in front of him, and making up the time around the corners.
Keke Rosberg went out with gearbox troubles. He won't care too much what they were, but Piquet now is already up amongst the tail enders on his 11th lap. That's how incredibly fast he's going as he passes Andrea de Cesaris's Minardi, which is followed by the Zach speed of Jonathan Palmer, who was involved very heavily in that shunt. Nigel Mansell maybe running on reduced boost, but he looks very comfortable to me. He's on lap 11, and the order is now Piquet leading, Mansell second, Berger third, Senna fourth, Prost fifth, Fabi sixth, Alboreto in the Ferrari seventh, Arnoux eighth, Alan Jones is ninth, 10th is Derek Warwick, 11th Dumfries, 12th Brundle, 13th Patrese, 14th Streff, 15th Johansson, 16th Tombe, Jonathan Palmer is 17th, followed by Boutsen and Nannini, and Rogata has already been lapped, and several others are in the process of being lapped now by both Nigel Mansell, and you can see how close he is to Nelson Piquet now, who is in Mansell second, Piquet leading. This is Hawthorne Bend, one of the two fastest corners on the... And off goes the Zach speed of Rogata, who is rapidly building himself a not particularly desirable reputation in Grand Prix racing, for one reason or another. Piquet, lap 12, Mansell. Well, the Williams team for a while, ago, were held up by their decision to wait until they could get a turbo engine that would be their own, as a result of which they stayed with the illustrious Ford DFB for a long time. 1 minute 12.72 is outside Jacques Laffite's lap record, which is 1:11.53, but of course there's still a heavy fuel load on the cars. I was saying that Honda stayed with the illustrious Ford DFB engine, which won some 155 Grand Prix, longer than most of the other teams. Then they got the Honda turbo engine. It took the Japanese technicians a little while to get it right, but halfway through last season they introduced a revised version of their engine, V6 turbo motor, 1.5 litres, like all of them these days. And since then they've hardly looked back. And they're certainly not looking back now, with Piquet leading, Mansell second. And even if Mansell only finishes in second position, he wouldn't be unhappy with that, because his rival for the World Championship, Prost, is currently in fifth position. There go the leaders. Now in third position and coming down to clearways is Gerhard Berger. He's now some 10 seconds behind the leaders. Here he is, number 20, Gerhard Berger, 26 years old. The man from Vögel, which is near Innsbruck in Austria. Tall, lanky and vastly good-humoured.
Yes, the Williamses are certainly putting a big stamp on this race. They're pulling out, making it a bit of a one-team race. Because Berger's losing ground pretty fast, and Prost behind him is struggling to keep up with him.
Yes, Gerhard Berger that we're looking at started, as I said earlier on, his career with ATS. Then he was with the Arrows team before he was snapped up by Benetton, which until last year we knew better as the Tolman team. And he's also a very accomplished saloon car driver and drives for BMW in the European Touring Car Championship. So, where is Berger? Third. There is Alain Prost, who is in fifth position, and sandwiched between the two of them, Ayrton Senna, the man who won in Spain, who's had so many pole positions. He won in Detroit as well, of course, 2 second places, a third and a fifth this year, third in the World Championship, and certainly the most sought-after man for next year's season. And the hot rumour, and I emphasise that it is a rumour from Brands Hatch, is that Honda are trying to buy the Lotus team, in which case Honda engines would go into Lotus race cars next year, and they did that, there would be little doubt that they retain Ayrton Senna, who is being caught by Alain Prost. Race order: Piquet leads, Mansell second, Berger third. You see now in front of you on lap 15 the battle for fourth position between Senna and the red and white car of Alain Prost, who is passing the Minardi of Andrea de Cesaris, as out of the pits goes Teo Fabi in the Benetton. Now here's Prost, world champion. Alain Prost just somehow never seems to get his act together to his satisfaction, or obviously his team's, at Brands Hatch. And I'm not casting aspersions on either of them. The combination just doesn't seem to suit Prost, McLaren and Brands Hatch. Prost has never won here. He was very, very unhappy with the handling of his car. In practice, Goodyear brought in a batch of special tyres to try to put the situation right. Prost went out on those tyres this morning in the warm-up. I don't actually know which type he is on as far as construction is concerned, because that was going to be a last-minute decision. But he, like all the other Goodyear runners, is on C compound. That is the softest race compound, and we're certainly going to see some pit stops. And I would guess from about lap 25 onwards, about a third race distance, maybe a little longer. But lap 60, weather conditions perfect, sun is shining, crowd is vastly enthralled, and you're seeing Alain Prost catching fourth place man Ayrton Senna. And Ayrton Senna is rather gloomily, as the faster circuits come up, seeing his World Championship prospects slip away.
Yes, Prost is going to have to work very hard to pass Senna, even if he can catch him, because he's been about that distance behind him for some laps now. And although he could probably go faster if he was on his own, without Senna in front of him, the difference isn't big enough. With all the turbulence from Senna's car, Senna making the hole in the air, and of course cross wings therefore not working so well. As soon as he gets close, he loses grip.
The Arrows is in the pits of Thierry Boutsen on lap 17 for the first tyre stop, but it looks an amazingly leisurely one. The Belgian, who must have been very severely shaken, well, it's a lot more than tyres, obviously. He's out in the spare car because the left front wheel and suspension was torn off his original car, and he's had to start again in the race car, which clearly isn't up to snuff at the present moment. Piquet leads then. Across the line he goes. There's Mansell, you'll just see going into Paddock behind him. Up to Druids. Berger still third. Williams leads. Williams Honda second. Benetton BMW third. And BMW, of course, are retiring from Grand Prix racing at the end of this season. And that's really put the cat amongst the pigeons as far as the Benetton. And Prost is into the pits. This could be the tyre change for Alain Prost. Start the watch. And let's see those well-drilled McLaren mechanics at work. They've got to go to beat the Williams record of about 7.8 seconds. And it was, what, about 9.9 seconds. So Prost has been in and changed tyres. An early change, I think, James.
Yes, I suspect that he may have gone for a different construction of tyre, not been happy with what he'd got on, because he didn't appear to be in any undue trouble apart from that. And we'll now have to have a look and just see whether it's been a positive change or whether he's going to go slow. He's on cold tyres, remember. Tracy goes past him. But certainly it's not a happy weekend for Prost. Hasn't really got it together here. Unhappy with the handling of his car, messing around with tyres, and he's now got to go the rest of the race on this set if he's going to be competitive, because the others are going to make one stop. And really the Williams cars look quite dominant here at the moment. They're pulling away steadily, got something like 17 or 18 second lead over third place man Berger, so really they're racing each other.
Excellent bit of driving. Patrese is not very far behind the Australian, who is now 8th. Patrese 9th. Looking for Alain Prost. They are on lap 22. The leaders have gone through. Berger is still in third position, some 18 seconds behind Piquet and Mansell. Now, I was saying that Mansell there is in a superb position. He's second in the World Championship. His teammate Piquet, who is ahead of him in the race, is fourth in the World Championship. And that looked to me as though somebody was in the process of blowing an engine.
It's looked like one of the Lola Hearts.
Yes, and Mansell, of course, can just sit where he is and finish in second place. He can challenge Piquet later in the races in a fuel conservation mode, as it were. But one problem that will face him if he starts to get much closer to Nelson Piquet, and that Nigel Mansell will know about even much better than I do, is there's a considerable amount of buffeting from aerodynamics and wind disturbance if you get very close to the car in front. So Nigel Mansell is almost literally very, very fast, though, cruising.
Yes, I think he's looking as if he's going to attack now. He's very much in the buffeting zone. He's got closer to Piquet, and that was the red car that we saw. It is the Ferrari of Stefan Johansson, which made a big puff of smoke, and I would strongly suspect that that was the turbocharger that has gone wrong. But Mansell looks now as if he's beginning to make a bid for the lead.
And there he goes, lap 23, Nigel Mansell leads the British Grand Prix, and I emphasise that he is leading the British Grand Prix in a car in which, until he started it on the second start, was strange to him. He had not used this car, the spare car, in anger, and it's a considerable testimony to the quality of the Williams workmanship and the way the mechanics can set up the cars, that Nigel Mansell can do that and take the lead from the man that is his greatest competition. I say that because although Prost is in front of him in the World Championship, it is always your team mate that you want to beat most. And here we are with Philippe Streff in the camera car, and there is Mansell past him, and there is Piquet past him. That is a replay of Philippe Streff, and Philippe Streff is a considerable driver of his own merit.
Yes, he did well there, Streff. He made room. He let the two leaders go by and lap him, didn't impede them. And Mansell now will be trying to just stretch that lead away, but he won't be using additional power. Having got past Piquet, I think he probably turned up the boost just to make that little passing manoeuvre. And now he'll be cutting it right back to try and stretch the lead without wasting more fuel.
And we're just about up to 1/3 distance in this 75-lap race, because Piquet in second place and Mansell, the new leader, are on the 24th lap, going through and completing it now into Paddock Bend. Very difficult, demanding corner because it's very, very fast and falls away to the left, and it's a right-hand corner. Now Nigel Mansell is about to attack and lap Martin Brundle in the Tyrrell Renault, who is in 12th position. There's Brundle behind him, Mansell and Piquet. And we never know, of course, to what extent Piquet may have decided to metaphorically take a rest. I don't think he is. I think, as James pointed out, that Mansell was attacking determinedly to take the lead with every intention of keeping it. But so far, the only persons that have been into the pits in a position of possibly winning the race were Keke Rosberg, who came in to retire, and Alain Prost, of course, who's been in for tyres, with Piquet closing right up on Mansell, who has yet to take Martin Brundle as they go into clearways, and he goes past the Englishman at a gloriously opportune moment, And Mansell looks as though he might even put 2 cars between himself and Piquet. No, he won't put any, because Piquet is past Brundle now, and that is 25 laps, 1/3 distance completed. Mansell leads, Piquet second, Senna third, Alboreto is now fourth, Arnoux is fifth, Warwick is sixth, and Prost is only eighth.
And yes, down the field a bit. That looks like Berger walking back, so Berger has struck trouble, abandoned his car, his day's work is over. But down the field, Prost in 8th place is now bringing the 2 Brabhams in front of him of Derek Warwick and Riccardo Patrese under considerable pressure. So Prost, remember that Prost has already been in and changed tyres and is now trying to climb his way back. Johnny Dumfries just being lapped by the 2 Williamses, and they really look superbly dominant.
And out of the race goes Andrea De Cesaris. Gerhard Berger out then. By the way, Stefan Johansson has retired with turbocharger problems, and Andrea De Cesaris is out, as you've just seen. So that's Keke Rosberg out, Berger out, Stefan Johansson out, and De Cesaris out, and Nigel Mansell leading. And the lead now is rather more than visual. It's a sort of getting up to it's about a second. But there is a battle going on down the field between Derek Warwick, Patrese and Prost in 6th, 7th and 8th places, and here it is. Derek Warwick 6th in the new BT55, and Prost, with his tyre change completed, has not been lapped, and he won't be, but I don't think anyway, but he is the last person not to have been lapped, because Dumfries, who is 9th, has been.
Yes, this is a worrying moment for Prost, because he really, having made his tyre stop, he desperately needs not to be held up by these 2 Brabhams. I suspect he can go quicker if he's on his own, but the difference isn't enough for him to be able to pass easily. And apart from that, they're involved in their own battle. Warwick in the new car, Riccardo Patrese. They brought out the old model to see if they could get over their handling and development problems, and there goes Prost. But we'll really be in quite a hurry to dispense with this battle ahead of him, so that he can start having a run back at the points positions.
Mansell leads, Piquet 1.5 seconds behind, Senna some 33 seconds behind, third, Alboreto fourth, Arnoux fifth, Warwick is in 6th position, and you look at him now, Patrese 7th, Prost is 8th, and I am vastly impressed with the Brabhams in this race. They have had a dreadful season so far, with the introduction of the new BT55, the tragic death of Elio De Angelis in testing of Paul Ricard, and into the pits comes Ayrton Senna in 3rd position. Let's see if this is a good pit stop by the Lotus team. Senna, mucho agitato, waving his left hand, and it's a far from inspired pit stop. Steve Hallam having a conversation with Senna, and this looks like bad news. You can see the seconds ticking away, and before very much longer, Michele Alboreto will be through and into the place that Ayrton Senna had, which was 3rd position. A Ferrari up into 3rd position, and that is strange in racing these days, all too sadly. And now, as you see, it's now getting up to 40 seconds, and up goes the Lotus on the jack. Senna's season is crumbling. The man who won in Spain and Detroit looks as though he's stuck long-term in the pits, and Prost there has gained a place as a result of it. And the order now is Mansell leading, Piquet 2nd, Alboreto is in 3rd position, Arnoux is 4th, up to 5th has gone Derek Warwick, to 6th has gone Patrese. So certainly for the first time this season, both the Brabhams, there they are in the points. There is 7th place man Alain Prost, not in the points, and not showing any sign at all of catching, let alone passing the Brabhams.
Yes, beginning to look as if Prost is really struggling. He got up behind them and then couldn't do anything about it, and now he's actually beginning to lose time. Whether his tyres are going off or what, it's hard to say, but it's been a generally very unhappy weekend for Prost, and maybe it's the old French jinx. Brands Hatch, the French have always had a lot of trouble winning at Brands Hatch. In the junior Formula 3, they come over to Brands and they worry about it. They find the circuit very difficult, but Prost is good enough not to have those problems, and he still doesn't seem to really get it together here.
What a wonderful fillip it would be for Bernie Ecclestone and Gordon Murray's Brabham team if both their cars, the new one and the old one, could finish in the points. Now we're on lap 30. It is a 75-lap race, and they've got a long way to go before they can do that, but they're going jolly well at the moment. But the leader there, Nigel Mansell, has now lapped everybody up to Alain Prost and is catching him, because Prost is dropping back from Patrese 6th and Warwick 5th.
Yes, and the biggest worry in the Williams pit, I would think now, Patrick Head hanging out lap 2, which means 2 laps to go before his tyre stop. And I would think the biggest worry in the pit, and Nelson Piquet is in already. So Mansell on his own, Piquet has made his tyre stop already. And their big worry is they've put such a lead on each other, I would think that the team must be worrying that they're racing each other so hard that something could go wrong.
Well, Nelson Piquet in before Nigel Mansell, and that was the 30th lap completed, so there's some 50 laps to go. And of course they're doing those 50 laps on a lighter fuel load and should go the whole distance. The expectation was that it would be a one-tyre stop race. It has of course extended Nigel Mansell's lead, but you get a false impression as Piquet's had to stop for tyres. And there is the Union Jack on the come-in arrow. There's Patrick Head in the dark classes in the background, and Nigel Mansell will see that arrow, and I'll tell you when he sees it. Now! And Nigel Mansell knows he's got to come into the pits to take on new tyres at the end of his 32nd lap. His teammate Piquet has already done so. Prost has already done so, but as of now, the order is Nigel Mansell is in the lead, and in second position is still Piquet, because Alboreto was a long way behind him. There is Martin Brundle in the pits in the Tyrrell for tyres. Up go the hands, which indicates that I've finished my part of the job. And meantime, Nigel Mansell on his 32nd lap in the lead by some 19 seconds is getting himself psychologically prepared to turn off into the pit lane for, I expect, as he passes Riccardo Patrese, who is in 6th position, another lightning Williams pit stop of the order of 8 seconds, and we're going to watch every millisecond of it. Mansell into clearways, leading the race. There's a sporting chance that he'll get out of the pits still in the lead. Just a sporting chance, provided it's a really slick stop, and it is stop now. You watch Mansell, I'll watch down the pit lane and see who comes through next. What a super stop! Not quite as super as it has been at 9 seconds, but a jolly good one nevertheless. And Mansell goes out of the pit lane as Piquet comes up to it. And Mansell still leads. Piquet's changed tyres. There he is. Piquet going round clearways, and he sees his teammate in front of him, and the order is 1-2, and they've both changed tyres.
Yes, very important that for Nigel now, because he's on cold tyres, so he won't want to give it... he's got to feel his way around, so he's going to try and defend his position with Piquet, but Piquet, no, he held him back, and Nigel slammed the door there, and all the time he's doing that, the tyres are getting hotter. So Nigel Mansell holds his lead. He has to calm his teammate Nelson Piquet up. And Alboreto in the pits there, just finishing his tyre change.
It's all go, go, go at Brands Hatch, and Nigel Mansell is in inspired form. His tyres will virtually be at full racing temperature now, because they will have had those electrically heated blankets on them. And now, with all the extra thrust of 850 horsepower, and the sideways forces. The carcass will have been working hard. The compound will be up to race temperature, and Piquet's going for it as they go down into the right-hander, and Paddock and Mansell's absolutely on the racing line. There are no orders between these two. Piquet going through on the inside, but he's going to be blocked, and he has been, and Mansell holds the lead. Great stuff!
A little bit unlucky for Piquet there, that just as he'd found really a good attacking position, he got a slow car on his line. So Nelson on the hot tyres knows the track. He's had a chance to feel his way around and learn it, but with every corner that we do, Mansell of course is getting used to his tyres, and this really is an important showdown battle between the two Williams drivers. Piquet seeking to re-establish himself after, by his standards, a very, very mediocre season so far. Mansell absolutely on a high.
Ayrton Senna retires from the British Grand Prix, and that is a potential 9 points lost to him. Not that he ever showed any chance of getting them the way the Williams are going, but while you're in the race you've got a chance of winning. So Mansell leads, Piquet second, Arnoux is in third place now after all this shuffling around, and then in fourth position it's Prost, in fifth position Derek Warwick in the Brabham, sixth is Michele Alboreto, who you saw come in for tyres, seventh and only just out of the points yet again in a wonderful first season of demonstrating how good he is, Johnny Dumfries, but he's very seldom had the opportunity to finish. Eighth is Felix Streff in the camera car, the Tyrrell. Ninth is Fabi. By the way, Dumfries has been lapped and he's in 7th position. 10th is Torbay, 11th is Brundle. Jonathan Palmer is still running in 13th position, and you know that Ayrton Senna is out. Tim holds out, chewing gum Tim holds out the signal to indicate to the two Williams cars that one of their major rivals, Ayrton Senna, is out of the British Grand Prix. And you know, those of you who watch Grand Prix racing regularly, that Williams, the team, has an absolutely superb pit-to-car, car-to-pit radio system through which the respective team managers, Patrick Head in the case of the Nigel Mansell car, can talk to their drivers. The drivers can talk back. You don't do too much chatting under these conditions, but undoubtedly with Nelson Piquet 1:11.250, and that is a new lap record. Jacques Laffite, who was taken to hospital after that first start with the crash, as Mansell comes up to Riccardo Patrese, who is in 12th position, and there's a new lap record by Nelson Piquet.
And tremendous stuff this by the two Williams cars. They're involved in what is a very, very important personal battle. Mansell was started the season as the number 2 driver. Piquet was brought in for the big money and everything. Mansell got on top now, and Piquet now is indulging in the showdown to try and re-establish himself as number 1. And the fact that their car at the moment seems to be the class of the field means that their most important battle is with each other. And Piquet gets carved up by the Brabham there in between, but I don't think he'll be delayed for long. Tracy makes room, lets him through.
It's bad news for Australia, I'm afraid. Alan Jones, who is having a far from good season because he has had to retire from 6 Grand Prix out of 8 already, is now making it 7 because he's had to retire with a broken throttle. Jones is certainly not having the luck. And Patrick Torbay, his teammate, is in 9th position. And as you look at this really epic struggle between two of the top men in Grand Prix racing today, in the car that is the best, the order is Mansell leading, Piquet second, Arnoux third, Prost fourth, Alboreto fifth, Warwick is sixth and has been lapped. almost exactly half distance, because we are now on lap 38 and Dumfries is into the pits for tyres as Nelson Piquet closes the gap between himself and Nigel Mansell. Let us hope that these two do not push each other so hard that the cars give problems. I don't think that's likely. They've been immaculately put together. The Honda engine has shown itself not only to be very fuel efficient and tremendously powerful, but also, and importantly in this stage of the race, any race, very reliable as well. And as they exit Stirling's Bend and go down to Clearways for the 38th time in this 80-lap race, Nigel Mansell seems to have cracked it, because after having to struggle very hard when he came out on hot as opposed to very hot tyres to keep his teammate Nelson Piquet fairly behind him, he's now in a position where he's got a approximately 1.2 second gap, and unless Piquet has decided just to rest a while. Seems strange to talk about resting at this speed, because they're doing about 185, 190 miles an hour, but you can nevertheless rest by their standards, and Piquet may have decided to do so, and then, as Mansell did earlier on, attack. Arnoux, we haven't seen anything of Arnoux, but the Frenchman is in third place in his Pirelli shod Ligier with its Renault V6 engine. The man who finished fourth in Brazil has had 2 fifth places and a sixth, is seventh in the World Championship, and has come back to Grand Prix racing after having been out for all but one race last year, when he was ignominiously fired by the commendatore from the Ferrari team for reasons which have never actually been too clear to anybody, and which Arnoux hasn't exactly leant over backwards to explain. But Arnoux is third. He's up with Martin Brundle, who is now ninth, and ahead of Martin Brundle, eighth is Patrick Tambay.
I strongly suspect, Murray, that the reason Arnoux hasn't leant over backwards to explain is that nobody bothered to explain to him why it had happened in true Ferrari fashion.
Could well be. I must admit, I'm struggling. But anyway, here is the French, and into the pits now. René Arnoux, there was 12 seconds between him and Alain Prost, who is fourth, which means to say, and here is Prost. As you look at Arnoux, I can tell you that Prost has passed him, as the Frenchman there in the Ligier is stationary in the pit lane. Alain Prost is up into third position, and all is not yet lost for the World Championship leader. And Mansell comes through now to complete his 40th lap.
Yes, very much a race of consolidation for Prost. The Williams have clearly got the legs on the McLarens, and so Prost will be looking for points here, looking for a steady drive, cabin finish. There he goes, just coming up to lap the Tyrrell. I gather that Ayrton Senna was out of the race. He had gear linkage problems. And Prost, as I say, will be looking really for a steady result, and he looks as if he could well get third place out of this, which will be valuable points, keep him alive in the championship, but he must be worried about the form of the Williams team. The car seems to be better and better. Honda have really got their act together with the engine. They've definitely got more power than anybody else in the race.
Yeah, Williams have already won 4 out of this year's 8 races. Piquet in Brazil, and then Mansell in Belgium and Canada and France. And now here we are on the 9th, and Prost is now in third position, ahead of Straff there, who he has lapped. Straff is in 10th position, and I talked to you on lap 42 as you look at Alboreto, who is now in 4th place, and the order is Nigel Mansell leading, and Patrese goes into the right-hander at Paddock, having blown his engine and parking his car. Patrese, there he is out of the race. What a pity. The BT54 Brabham has been brought out of an honourable retirement and has not lasted the race. And I'm beginning to wonder how many people there are left in it. or will be. But Mansell leads, Piquet second, Prost is third, Alboreto, there he is, the Ferrari driver, with 5 Grand Prix victories behind him. 2 on them in Ken Tyrrell's team is in 4th position. René Arnoux is 5th. Derek Warwick is 6th in the sole Brabham that is left. And Arnoux, who is 5th, has been lapped, of course, as has Warwick. And Théo Fabi, who is in 7th position. Patrick Tambay is in 8th position. Martin Brundle is 9th. Philippe Streff is in 10th position. Johnny Dumfries is 11th. Then Riccardo Patrese out of the race, which means to say that Palmer is now 13th, but has been lapped twice. Dumfries still getting his tyres up to the maximum race heat, although as I've said before they would have been heated up in the pits, is about to be caught and passed and lapped by Michele Alboreto. There's Piquet, second. Now, where is Mansell in relation to Piquet? There he is. He gives us a little stab of flame from his exhaust pipes to show us where he is. So there are 2 main questions now. Is Piquet just taking it easy? That's the main one. The second one, which I suppose is just as important to the Williams team and their fans, of whom there are many thousands here, will both Williams last the race?
Funny enough, I think we may have a cat and mouse game going on here between the 2 Williamses, in that I suspect that Mansell, comfortable in that lead, although it doesn't look very comfortable, but Piquet is not in a position to attack, may well have turned his boost down. I suspect that Piquet will be trying to do the same thing and waiting for a showdown in the last 10 laps. The only team orders, of course, that they have is not to hit each other. They are definitely racing each other, and of course there will be a lot of questions in the house if they attack each other, but believe me, this is a very important race indeed for both of them. For Piquet, it's a chance to re-establish. For Mansell, it's a chance to consolidate all the good work he's done already this season.
And if Piquet is saying, if you turn your boost down, I'll turn my boost down, Alain Prost will be delighted because it will give him an opportunity. And Johnny Dumfries is not being caught, well, he's being caught by Nigel Mansell, but Mansell had to do a bit of unexpected braking there and is now past the Scotsman. And Nelson Piquet has got to get past the Lotus. It's the only one left in the race, of course, with Senna out of it. So Keke Rosberg out. Berger, who was at one time second, is out a long time ago. So is Stefan Johansson with turbo trouble. Andrea De Cesaris out. Alan Jones out with gear linkage trouble. Ayrton Senna out with the same problem. It's not unknown for the Lolas to have that problem because they've had it all season. But strange for the Lotus, because that, as far as I know, has not given any problems before. Senna will be far from happy now, because whatever happens now with him out of the race, if either of the Williams cars which are finishing first and second stay there or in the points, it's going to make things yet more difficult for the Brazilian Senna. And this race remains to be desperately important to the person who is in second place. And there he is, Nelson Piquet. Because the gap between Piquet and Senna, who was third in the championship when this race started, was 13 points. And Piquet's closing that gap now.
Yes, and behind them it's also very important for Alain Prost to maintain third place. He's some 13 seconds in front of Michele Alboreto. He's quite comfortable there, but he must collect those 4 points to stay in touch. The Williamses are too good for the McLaren here at Brands Hatch, there's no doubt about that, but the boot may be on the other foot at other circuits later, but Prost must hold on.
And you will have noticed that Michele Alboreto, who is fourth in the Ferrari, has now been lapped by both Mansell, the leader, there he is, coming up to lap Philippe Streff, and Nelson Piquet, who is in second place. And that is a sad comment on the lack of ability of the Ferrari team to match the top cars of McLaren and Williams and Lotus. And there is a sparkling lap record for Nigel Mansell. Nigel Mansell 1 minute 10.7. So he's pressing on. Piquet's doing the same thing. There's Piquet coming up to Streff. You see a messy camera lens there, but that's Philippe Streff being passed by Nelson Piquet, and Philippe Streff now passing the Zach speed of Jonathan Palmer with his teammate, who broke Geta long since out of the race. It may be a dirty ledge, but my goodness, it's an evocative shot, and it's a fabulous comment on modern technology that you can actually travel with the race drivers. What a pity we can't travel with Piquet.
Piquet looks as if he's about to start mounting an attack. Yeah, he's got a little bit closer. Although I have to say, I think if I was in Piquet's situation now, I would still keep resting, as we put it, although he's not resting. What he's doing is turning the boost down, conserving fuel, letting the engine rest a bit, and working very hard around the corners. Goodness, the days have passed in Grand Prix racing when we had number ones and number twos with team orders not to pass, and they came in a nice orderly procession to the finish. But believe me, these two are racing very seriously.
Just a second between them. It doesn't seem long, but it takes a lot of catching up when you've got somebody as good as Nigel Mansell in front of you. And just to underline how successful the Englishman has been since he won, the yellow flag out there, so there's trouble ahead. One of the Benettons has pulled out. Well, it must be Teo Fabi who's out of the race, because, of course, Berger went out some time ago. There is Fabi's car. And I was telling you, just to underline the class of the man you're looking at, Nigel Mansell, since he won here at Brands Hatch in the European Grand Prix last year, he has scored more World Championship points and a lot more World Championship points than anybody. He has scored 56. His nearest rival is Alain Prost with 46, and then Ayrton Senna with 42. And at the rate he's going now, of course, it's going to be an even more dramatic difference if he stays where he is at the end of this British Grand Prix. He's on lap 49 now. The FW for Frank Williams, 11. That is the 11th of these cars that Frank Williams and his co-director Patrick Head have produced between them. 1 minute 10.345. So Nigel must either be a bit worried or supremely confident. I suspect it's the latter. And 133.775 miles an hour is some 2.2 miles an hour faster but Jacques Laffite's record in the late Ligier, which was put up last year. And I was talking about Patrick Head, who's designed the Williams cars, all of them. The one that Alan Jones won the World Championship in, the one that Keke Rosberg won the World Championship in. Williams, of course, have won the Constructors' Championship, and this is another supremely successful design.
And at this rate, the two Williamses are going to lap the entire field. Alain Prost is very nearly a minute behind them in third place. And they're only taking 1 minute 10 and a bit seconds to get round. And believe me, they are racing hard. Mansell is lowering the lap record lap after lap, but Piquet's matching him every inch of the way, and Piquet looks very comfortable behind him. And we've got to hope for a big showdown in the last 8 or 10 laps, which is when really the battle's going to start.
And Nigel Mansell's finding Tyrrell cars getting in the way, had a bit of trouble getting past Streff. Now he's diving through on the inside of Martin Brundle, and Piquet does the same thing and nearly came right up alongside Nigel Mansell. That was virtually, and Piquet's in a good position to go for the lead now as they come down to clearways. He's close enough, almost, to come out from behind Nigel Mansell and go for the lead by turning up the boost a bit. But he won't do it now unless he goes round the outside of Paddock, and I can't see Mansell letting that happen.
There's chances to get a good line through Paddock, have a go up the inside, but Nigel has sensibly closed the door and cut off the inside line. And if he's going to turn the boost up, the only place he can do it that's worthwhile here is now after South Bank Bend as they go out onto the back straight down to Hawthorne's. Longest straight at Brands Hatch. And will Piquet punch up his boost? And it looks as if he hasn't. And there's the McLaren pit. They are ready for Prost to come in, possibly again.
And that's very significant because Prost came in on lap 18 and was only expecting before this race began to make one pit stop for tyres. And here he is. Let's see how long this one takes. Don't worry, we'll keep you posted about Mansell and Piquet battling for the lead as Alain Prost, get out of the way to the photographer, thank you very much. Well, reasonable stop. Not good enough for Alain Prost, I think. 11 seconds compared with the 8 seconds or so that the Williams team have been doing. There is the Williams team. This is lap 52 in this 80-lap race, and an enthralling battle. Mansell leads, Piquet second.
And the newfound confidence that Nigel Mansell has had with his recent successes is really showing here. He's under a lot of pressure. Piquet is absolutely filling his mirrors. He's right behind him, and that is quite a difficult situation in which to drive. But Mansell is showing a lot of confidence. He's driving very smoothly. He's not being ruffled. He's not making any mistakes. And if Piquet is going to win this race, he's going to have to attack Mansell and wrest it from him.
Yes, and I owe you all an apology. I seem to have a fixation that this is an 80-lap race. It's a 75-lap race. And there goes Mansell across the line to complete his 51st. Coming up to the Ferrari. No, coming up to Patrick Tombé's Lola Ford. And Tombé is in 7th position. Now watch Piquet go past the Frenchman, Patrick Tombé. Patrick Tombé, the ex-Ferrari driver. In fact, Patrick Tombé, the ex-everything driver virtually, because he's driven for Renault, for Ferrari, for Ligier, for Theodore, for McLaren and for Ensign. A very experienced chap. And here is Alboreto, or will be Alboreto, who's in 4th position on the same lap as 3rd place man Alain Prost. Waiting to come The Ferrari mechanics waiting to fit a new set of Goodyear tyres to the Ferrari, but they're not going to do so because there is Michele Alboreto out of the British Grand Prix on this, the 54th lap now, his 53rd lap actually. So they're wasting their time standing in the pit lane, and it will be a very unhappy, disgruntled, depressed Michele Alboreto, who has had 2 dreadful seasons in the end with Ferrari. He may have finished second in the World Championship, won 2 races last year, but in the second half of the season it all fell apart for him. And this year the best he's been able to do was 4th places in Belgium and Detroit. He's had 4 retirements in Brazil, Spain, San Marino and Monaco, and this makes it 5. And Ferrari, who've made big improvements in terms of power to their engines, have got to do yet more work in terms of handling and reliability if they're to get up onto the podium, let alone win races. And here are the cars that are showing every signs of doing both. Nigel Mansell looking very comfortable indeed, leading Piquet.
Yes, but Nelson Piquet is looking a lot better than he really has done since the Brazilian Grand Prix, the first race of the season, which he won. And he now has a look about him of somebody who's remembered that he's driving for the World Championship and trying to win it, because it certainly appeared, and Nelson Piquet now posts another fastest lap, but they're really vying with each other. They're just not, as the fuel load comes down, the cars get lighter, therefore quicker, and they're just trading new lap records together. But they are certainly racing hard out, and as I say, Nelson Piquet, as René Arnoux goes into the pits for another set of tyres. Looked almost casual, that pit stop, but it was still pretty quick. But Piquet at least looks as if he's remembered that he's driving for the World Championship. He's had some personal problems this year with his private life, and he seems to have allowed that to come into the cockpit with him, and has been consequently listless in his driving, but at last the spark seems to be at least flickering.
And there's a spark blazing in the cockpit of Derek Warwick's Brabham, because with Arnoux having gone into the pits for a new set of Pirellis, as he came out of the pits, Derek Warwick scorched past in his Brabham to take 4th position. And the race order now on lap 56 is Mansell leading. There's Derek Warwick, and behind him you'll soon see René Arnoux, or you should do, in the Ligier. There is the Frenchman in now 5th position, ahead of both of them. Mansell leading, Piquet second, only about 1.5 seconds between them. Out goes the Minardi there. Prost still in 3rd position but has been lapped. Warwick 4th, Arnoux 5th, Tombay in the points and showing every sign of staying there, in which case it would be the first World Championship point for Carl Haas's Lola Ford team. Martin Brundle is so near to the World Championship points as he has been so many times in the past. He's only been in them once this year, and that was in Brazil, but he's had 2 8th places. Philippe Streff, his teammate, is 8th. Johnny Dumfries is 9th. Jonathan Palmer is in an excellent 10th position. He may be 3 laps down, but the Zack-Speed team, who is struggling to get the testing time and the money to go testing, the best they have been able to do so far is 8th place in Detroit.
And there we see it captioned, the 2 Williams cars have now lapped the whole of the rest of the field, which I suppose in one way is a bit of a bonus for those who are lapped. They've got 1 more lap's worth of fuel, because remember they stop when the flag comes out anyway. It's Nigel a little bit held up by the Zack-Speed there, trying to find his way around, but it's been spotted, and it gives Nelson a chance to get much closer again. And when the back markers come into play, they always hurt the car in front if you're battling, because he's the only person who can lose anything, and it gives the car behind very often a chance to attack. And Nelson once again having a look, but he's not quite on top of him enough.
René Arnoux, with his tyres up to racing temperature, has predictably actually caught and passed Derek Warwick to retake 4th place. There's Arnoux, who is now 4th. Behind him, Derek Warwick is 5th. There's no discredit to Derek Warwick, because the Brabham, although it's been improved a bit, is still a heavy car. It's still poor on acceleration. They're still finding problems in getting the grip that they want, whereas the Ligier is a car that has improved race by race this season and is certainly nimbler and faster than the Brabham and showing it. And Nigel Mansell is coming up to lap René Arnoux for the 2nd time, and Warwick, of course. He'll take Warwick first, who's in 5th place, and my goodness, it's an indication of the incredible speed, reliability and consistency of the 2 Williams cars, and the way the 2 drivers are forcing each other on. Neither of them can relax. Nigel Mansell can see where Piquet is and is determined to win his first British Grand Prix. And Nelson Piquet, in the nicest possible way, is determined to stop Nigel Mansell winning his first British Grand Prix. Nelson Piquet was 4th in 1985 in the British Grand Prix last year. So, past Warwick, 5th position. For the 2nd time goes Nigel Mansell. Now let's see how Piquet copes with the Brabham. There's the answer. Up to Hawthorns, 5th gear, about 150 miles an hour. Now down the Derek Minter Straight, 6th gear, 6 gears for this race anyway. Westfield, 160 miles an hour. 5th gear now, at the approach to Dingle Dell. Now into Stirling's, that's a 3rd gear, about 130 miles an hour corner. That's where Mansell went off on the rumble strip, with sparks coming out from his under tray. A puff of smoke from the back of the Williams there as he clears clearways and goes through, and the gap between himself and Nelson Piquet has increased a bit to 1.9 seconds. They're on lap 60 out of 75.
And that puff of smoke could be significant, because when they turn the boost up with the engine, they run the mixture a lot richer. You get a certain amount of black smoke, and it certainly looks as if Mansell is making a bid to get away.
Just caught myself there. 75 lap race. Nigel Mansell leading on his 60th lap. Spent a long time with Nigel Mansell and his wife Roseanne and the 2 children over the weekend. He is intensely ambitious to win this race. Nothing matters to a British driver, of course, short of winning the World Championship, as much as winning your own Grand Prix in front of your own crowd. And you've all seen the publicity that Nigel Mansell has had since the cars and the drivers got into gear, as it were, on last Thursday for the British Grand Prix. He's been in the eye of the nation, and nothing would please him more than to come home first. It would be a wonderful fillip to him. And Martin Brundle, I said a few moments ago, was showing signs of getting into the World Championship points again, having been so close to them. And well, he's done it, because it's Mansell, Piquet, Prost, 1st, 2nd and 3rd. Arnoux, Warwick and Brundle. So we now have 3 Englishmen in the first 3 places. Nigel Mansell leading. Derek Warwick in the Brabham in 5th place. Martin Brundle in 6th position, and he's got there by getting ahead of Patrick Tambay, and all credit to the man from South Wootton, which is near King's Lynn. Martin in the motor business with his father John and his brother Robin, saloon car racer. Robin, who drove his first Formula 3 race earlier today. And Martin Brundle is a man who needs a result. This is his 3rd season of Grand Prix racing. He has been in a car up to now which even Ken Tyrrell, I know, would admit was not competitive. It had the Ford DFV engine against the turbos in Martin's early days with the Tyrrell team. But now Martin Brundle is showing his class and showing signs too of getting a World Championship point again. Lap 62, the leader, Nigel Mansell. In second place, Nelson Piquet, just saw his car there. Under the bridge, into clearways. Over the line, lap completed, clearways, Mansell, Piquet. They are the only two that are on the same lap, and that is lap 63.
And thank goodness for them, because such as their dominance, they've lapped the entire field, including world champion Alain Prost in third place. And but the good news is they're going to make a race of it. Mansell has really been dominant of the pair so far in the race, but one gets the feeling that Piquet has woken up a bit from his fairly somnolent posture that he's had most of the season, and we have to wait and see if he's got something up his sleeve in terms of a bit of fuel saved whilst following Mansell to have a charge at him in the closing laps. Piquet desperately needs a win.
You may wonder how friendly Piquet and Mansell are being in the same team. Well, the answer is that they are certainly not unfriendly. But Nigel Mansell says quite openly, and I mean this nicely, Nelson Piquet's problems are Nelson Piquet's problems and mine are mine. We both drive for the Williams team. We both have our race engineers. Neither of us is going to do anything to make things deliberately difficult for the other. But we're both very conscious of the fact that we each want to win. Well, Nigel's done it 3 times this year to Nelson Piquet's 1 time. And now, for the first time, we have a fastest lap at under 1 minute 10 seconds. 1 minute 8:08. Nearly 134 miles an hour for Nigel Mansell. The 2 Williams cars in their battle for leadership, and it is a battle. This is not a procession. This is a toe-to-toe, eyeball-to-eyeball, almost wheel-to-wheel. What, just a few lengths between them. Battle for supremacy in the team, in the World Championship, at the British Grand Prix, between Nigel Mansell, who is driving his 83rd Grand Prix, Nelson Piquet, who is driving his 119th Grand Prix. The difference between them being that Piquet has already won the World Championship twice. There's Patrick Tambay out of the race. Oh dear, that means that both the Carl Haas Lola Ford cars are out. Patrick Tambay joins out of the race. Michele Alboreto, Ayrton Senna, and his teammate Alan Jones, Adrian Cesaris, Stefan Johansson, Gerhard Berger, Keke Rosberg. And to those of you who are saying, with all the money and the technology that I understand is poured into Formula One Grand Prix racing, the best brains, the best facilities, the best equipment, the highest standards, why is it that so few of them go the full distance or even finish the race? And the answer to that is that there is no sport more competitive than this, and they are on the outer limits of technology the whole time.
Now we're coming up to the line, we're going to have 10 laps to go, and this is where Piquet, if he has anything in hand, is going to have to start making his move. Overtaking is sufficiently difficult, and you can't just draw it out of the hat and do it to order. And if Piquet's got anything in hand, he's going to have to start his attack, because it may take him the best part of 10 laps to get past.
The gap has increased a little. 1.36 seconds it was now. It's now 1.54. I know that's not very much, but it is indicative of the fact that there is nothing between them, and that if anything, Nigel Mansell is pulling away rather than Nelson Piquet pulling up to Nigel Mansell. And Mansell's got what may be a problem in front of him now. He's got to lap cars, but there is Thierry Boutsen, there is Philippe Streff. I said earlier on, now this is a potentially difficult situation because Nigel's up with 2 cars, and that was what made him go off at that point. And he's past Boutsen. He knows this is a problem, of course, and Streff is going to move over. Is he? Yes, he does. Nigel Mansell goes through. Meantime, Nelson Piquet is ahead of Boutsen going into clearways. He's got to get ahead of Streff. I'll give you the gap as they go up Hailwood Hill, and as Piquet goes through, the gap has surprisingly, if anything, come down. So that means that Piquet was marginally better getting through that bit of traffic than Mansell was, and as they go round Surtees, the gap is now down from what was 1.5 seconds to just a whisker over 1 second on lap 67. 75 lap race.
Problem for Piquet, of course, is that the closer he gets to Mansell, the less efficient the grip becomes on his car, because he's going through the hole in the air that's made by Mansell's car. He has to follow the same line, and of course his wings don't work so well. So the advantage is definitely with the man in front, unlike horse racing, athletics and various other sports. The onus is on the guy behind to find his way around. And Piquet, whilst he's been able to track Mansell all the way, looks to be struggling to find any way of getting past him.
7 laps to go, including the lap that they are on. And such is the intensity of this enthralling, gripping struggle for the lead that we're looking at Mansell and Piquet. I will tell you that Alain Prost is still going strong, albeit a lap behind, on his way to 4 World Championship points, which he desperately needs, because he's about to lose the World Championship lead to Nigel Mansell if everybody retains their present positions. Prost is 3rd, 1 lap behind. Arnoux is 4th, 2 laps behind. Warwick is 5th, 2 laps behind. Martin Brundle is still in the points, 2 laps behind. Streff is 7th, Martin Brundle's teammate, 3 laps behind. Dumfries is in 8th position, also 3 laps behind. The gap between Mansell and Piquet is 1.3 seconds. They are on their 69th lap. Mansell is controlling the race from the front. Unless Piquet has got something substantial in reserve or is prepared to throw caution to the winds in terms of boost, Mansell is in a commanding position. And again, Mansell breaks the lap record, 109.7. Marvellously consistent, superb driving. We've said it before, it merits saying again, but Nigel Mansell, since he joined the Williams team, is a different man. It took him 72 Grand Prix to get to his first victory. Now he is on his way, the Englishman, to his 6th victory since and including the European Grand Prix at Brands Hatch, when was it? Last October. An incredible performance. The highest point scorer of all since that race. Increasing his dominance over the rest of the field. There is Alessandro Nannini walking in. Mansell has increased the gap now to 1.5 seconds. I was talking about fuel and Piquet perhaps throwing caution to the winds. He will be able to take a considered judgment on that, of course, because not only does he have a fuel consumption meter in front of him, which tells him to half a litre how much fuel he's got out of the 195 litres that he started the race with, and that is the mandatory fuel allowance, but also his race engineer at the pits will know exactly what the situation is and will be able to give him advice on the pit-to-car radio as Mansell passes Palmer in the Zach speed. Palmer in 9th position, looking good for a finish. He's a lot slower, and you can see how much slower. But Palmer is looking good for a finish, and that would only be his, what, second, I think, of the season, were he able to. No, he's had 3 finishes. What a marvellous view from the airship of the 2 Williams and the enormous crowd. Fantastic crowd, biggest of all time at Brands Hatch, biggest ever at a Grand Prix, I'm sure, anywhere. A marvellous reward for all the work that John Webb and his very able team have done to put this Grand Prix on the road, quite literally. And Nigel Mansell and Piquet well ahead of the rest. In fact, they have lapped everybody.
And what a tragedy it is that future British Grand Prix at Brands Hatch are under threat on what apparently is a personal whim rather than through any reasoning. Brands Hatch, our premier Grand Prix circuit, has all the atmosphere. Silverstone is certainly a marvellous circuit, but it doesn't have the atmosphere that Brands Hatch. It isn't the challenge to the drivers that Brands Hatch is, and certainly it will be a very sad loss if Brands Hatch does not host British Grand Prix here in the future. Sad to everybody except possibly Bernie Ecclestone.
And here is the good news for British enthusiasts, those that are not here. Nigel Mansell is increasing his lead. I don't know if Nelson Piquet has mentally decided to give the Englishman best, but the gap is up to 2.6 seconds on this, the 72nd lap out of 75. And again, Mansell is coming up to lap Martin Brundle, who is still in 6th place, and he's fast and away.
And it looks to me as if Nigel Mansell has done the job best. Piquet in the background just coming into picture there, but falling away. It looks as if Nigel Mansell has conserved his fuel better, has been able to just turn up the power a little bit, and now he's heading the sprint for home from the front. Mansell's form has been absolutely wonderful over the last few races. He's a completely different man to the man who started this season even, let alone the man who won 2 races at the end of last year. And he's driving with just great control at the moment, great calm control. He seems to be able to read the race well. And certainly he's now trying to stretch away to the flag.
And I remind you, just give up hell, Nigel, it says. That's just what he's doing. Well, can I remind you that Nigel Mansell, due to the fact that in his own words something exploded in the back of the Williams in which he first started the British Grand Prix this afternoon before the race was stopped due to that sad accident to Jacques Laffite, is actually driving the spare car which was originally set up for Nelson Piquet, and they have very dissimilar settings in terms of pedals, seat, windscreen and so on. For instance, they have a different depth of windscreen in order to accommodate their different aerodynamic requirements, and the gap now is 2.89, nearly 3 seconds. Mansell has nearly doubled the lead. He is on his penultimate lap. That is lap 74 out of 75 in this, the Shell Oil's British Grand Prix of 1986. And if he wins, and he's not got very long to go now, it will be an amazing 4 victories in the last 5 Grand Prix. Now, I haven't got that sort of statistic in my head, that it's a very, very long time since anybody was as successful as that. And if it happens, and I'm deliberately being cautious until I see Mansell take the checkered flag, he will add 9 points to the 38 that he already has to give him 47 points. And Senna, of course, who was in 3rd position, is now out of the race. Alain Prost, the current championship leader, and hello, the Williams pit are getting ready with the flags. Alain Prost is on his way to 4 points as Nigel Mansell starts what looks like being his victorious last lap.
Yes, and a fabulous drive by Nigel Mansell. He kept it well under control, played it tight for most of the race, didn't get ruffled by double world champion Nelson Piquet sitting on his tail, and managed to conserve his fuel. He was sensible, didn't push it when he didn't have to, and in the last few laps he showed who's boss, and this really is tremendous form by Mansell. He now looks like favourite to win the World Championship, and certainly we in Britain all hope that he does. But he saved it up the last 5 laps. He's just gone away and he's really destroyed Piquet. Piquet must be wondering what he's got to do to deal with this man who's on such a high at the moment.
And you see the flags and the handkerchiefs and the hands waving as Nigel Mansell on his way to win the British Grand Prix and to take the lead in the 1986 World Championship. Exits the last corner, crosses the line, and Mansell is the winner. Great stuff, wonderful drive, a magnificent drive in the spare car, and Mansell, who is dominant in terms of his mental approach at the present moment, has got the winning car. He's extended the Williams Constructors' Championship lead, and the crowd is on their feet. They're giving him the big shout, the big wave all the way around the circuit. And if luck was anybody's today, it is Mansell's. I say that because he needed the luck after failing to get the car round the first lap at racing speed when the race first started, and he's turning in now, and there's going to be an absolutely ecstatic reception. Prost still on his way. Nelson Piquet has finished second, of course. Alain Prost never to be overlooked, and Brundle has finished in 5th position. So the race order at the end of the British Grand Prix is victory for Nigel Mansell, 2nd place for Nelson Piquet, 3rd position for Alain Prost, 4th position for René Arnoux, 5th position for Martin Brundle, and 6th position for Derek Warwick. 3 British drivers, and there are 2 of them, Mansell and Brundle, congratulating each other in the first 3. And Mansell looks to me, indeed he's fainting, I think. This is the way he was at Dallas, you remember, when he pushed in the Lotus, but Mansell's had a very hard race and he looks a bit groggy.
Yes, it is terribly hard physically. He's very tired indeed, but I don't think he'll mind too much about that. I think he should just be very happy and very proud of an excellent drive. He's given it everything. He sat down, but believe me, it is very much like marathon running. People don't think that driving a Grand Prix car, well, they think it's a bit like driving an ordinary car, but believe you me, it's not. Nigel Mansell will have given everything he's got physically. He'll be dehydrated, drained. He will have lost something like 7 or 8 pounds in weight during the race through the loss of liquid, and he jolly well deserves a sit. So we're putting some liquid back, and there we go, starts to revive it. But a very, very tired Nigel Mansell and a very happy one. He's really overcome with emotion there.
And a correction on the 6th place I gave you at the end of the magnificent British Grand Prix for Williams and for Britain. Nigel Mansell the winner, Nelson Piquet 2nd, Alain Prost 3rd, René Arnoux 4th, Martin Brundle 5th, and his teammate Philippe Streff 6th. And the World Championship positions then are that Nigel Mansell now leads for the first time in his career with 47 points. Down to 2nd goes Alain Prost with 43. In 3rd position, Ayrton Senna, and it's an exhausted Nigel Mansell. Well done. The crowd is roaring its approval. I have never heard anything like this since they gave vent to their rage when James Hunt was going to be disallowed from starting. I think this, James, even beats that.
Yes, it's a wonderfully emotional moment. Nigel was all knackered and exhausted just before, but he found the strength to raise his arms to acknowledge the applause of a totally enthusiastic crowd, and it evokes little stirrings of very emotional memories for me, and it's 10 years ago this weekend. So Mansell wins for Britain and himself, and he's now en route to attack the World Championship.
And you saw Nelson Piquet making the dash for the rostrum there. Well, to the victor, the laurels and the glory, and Roseanne and Leo. I almost overcome with emotion myself. Peter Cooper of the RAC greeting him home, his wife Roseanne carrying little Leo, and Chloe, his daughter, will doubtless be down there somewhere, protected from the crowd. Well, the Mansells have fought for this. They actually at one time sold their house, and in order to enable Nigel to go racing, and in those days Roseanne brought the bread and butter in, because Roseanne was working to support Nigel Mansell's racing career. Nigel has broken his back, he's broken his neck, he's fought back from adversity. He is now #1 in the World Championship, and just listen to the crowd. And there is that magnificent Shell Oils crystal bowl, and now Nigel can put one at each end of his dining table at Port Erin in the Isle of Man, because he's got the one that he won here at France at the European Grand Prix last year, and now this magnificent twin to add to it. The only difference being that there's Roseanne, his wife, there's Leo, his son. The only difference between those two bowls, one says European Grand Prix, the other says British Grand Prix, and I don't think Nigel can comprehend it. He's almost out on his feet. Roseanne can see it, and she's worried, and well, she might be, because Nigel is feeling it. Alain Prost, the woman is Ginny Williams. You'll just see her in a minute, I expect. Frank Williams' wife, and what a wonderful homecoming to Grand Prix racing for Frank Williams. There's Ginny. To see Nigel Mansell win and take the World Championship leadership, to see Nelson, there's Ginny Williams, and Patrick Head, the designer of the winning Williams car, who has talked Nigel Mansell to victory, as well as Nigel Mansell driving, of course. Oh, what a day.
And what a wonderful present for Frank Williams in his fight for recovery from his road accident. He's always been a great British patriot. And there is Ginny holding up the trophy. And to see his cars finish 1-2 in his home Grand Prix with a British driver winning in the form of Nigel Mansell must be the maximum fillip that Frank can possibly have on his recovery.
Nigel giving a hand himself, as something the public address announcer has said, but there's Brian Jones on the left making the speech. I don't think, it's a great pity that Nigel can't enjoy this supreme moment as much as he would like, because he's dehydrated, I think. But Nelson Piquet, in spite of finishing second, understandably doesn't look best pleased. It's now 4-1 in terms of victories in Nigel Mansell's favour. Now, as the traditional champagne spraying happens, I say again, this has been Nigel Mansell's day. This has been Williams's day, with Nigel Mansell winning Nelson Piquet second. Williams extending their lead in the Constructors' Championship, and Nigel Mansell leading the World Championship.
Nigel Mansell, that really was quite one of the most remarkable races I have ever seen. You know, the British crowd asked you if you would do it. I know you were determined to, but it looked as though it was a very high price to pay.
It was done for everybody out there who supports all the English drivers. Thank you very much, and for Frank Williams and Ginny here, it was a fantastic victory for the team. But what a wonderful crowd, fantastic, thank you very, very much.
Nigel, at the risk of pestering you, because I know we do have a little bit of time, more water is required, we do have a little bit of time before you go off to do these residuals. I think we should take it slowly, because it really has been one of the most exhausting races. Are you aware that you set a new lap record in the 1 minute 9?
No idea.
No idea. I can tell you it is blisteringly quick, 135 miles an hour, and you were maintaining a pace of something like that for 75 laps. It really is an extraordinary performance. Did you have any problem?
I didn't want to lose.
Tell me, I don't honestly believe that Piquet gave you an inch.
Nobody gave me half an inch.
He certainly gave you a hard time at 75 laps. Do you think it was made harder because you were at Brands Hatch?
Oh yeah, it's an incredible circuit. I keep saying this was my hardest race, but Nelson, make no mistake, is a great driver, and we were literally nose to tail all the time, and we're having to push and push and push, and then we'd get in a little bit of traffic, and it was seesawing, and you just couldn't let up. You know, the person that was going to win was the person that was going to push all the time, and that's my excuse for being tired.
I think, ladies and gentlemen, you'll agree he's got every excuse for being tired. Just before he goes, let me make the point to you, ladies and gentlemen, that you are greeting the winner of the Shell Oils Grand Prix of Europe and the Shell Oils British Grand Prix of Brands Hatch. This is a unique double. Well done, Nigel Mansell. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the drivers now are going off to do the television residuals, as they're called, and you know, I felt that it was hard to keep Nigel to the front after such an exhausting race. Have you enjoyed yourself, ladies and gentlemen? What we were waiting for, we waited for 55 minutes for the restart of that race, and it really was incredible. Well, as you are aware,
Which is Chloe? I'll tell you who's got the trophy. This is Williams at the moment. Good, we're not. But this is the grandstand prize. I'm hearing nothing but Ryan because of the effects mic out there. Yes. I'd rather do the outside. I know, but I'll shoot. Okay? Yes. Nigel Mansell, I've seen many emotional scenes at Brands Hatch, but never like today. How do you feel?
A little tired.
What about this reception you've just received?
Well, last year was truly magnificent, but they've surpassed that already. They're just incredible, they really are. But you know, they started 4 laps before the end, and they were the longest 4 laps of my life.
Nigel, it's an incredible day. If an author had written this into a plot, the home hero, all the pressure you had, second on the grid, the first start of a race, your car wasn't very good, was it? I mean, let's face it, what would have happened if it hadn't been the incident?
Well, I'm very, very sorry that there was an incident because someone got hurt, but obviously I'm very pleased for England and especially myself.
Nigel, you were driving a spare car, which is Nelson's spare car, which of course is not really suited to you. How do you account for this unbelievable performance?
I always said if it was going to be, it would be, and I must thank Nelson very much because it's through Nelson's efforts that the car was as quick as it was, because he set it up, and as you can see, he set it up very, very well indeed.
Nigel, when you won the first race here only 9 months ago, we said, what about a British World Champion? You said, it's on the cards. Now here you are with, 4 wins out of 5 races, you're now leading the World Championship. How does it feel?
Haven't thought about it yet. I don't know how it feels at the moment. I'm gathering my thoughts now. I'm just pleased that we went the distance, obviously won the race, but it's a bit too early for everything to sink in yet, and I'll just wait.
We had Frank Williams back at this race, as you know, on Friday and Saturday. He's now seen on the television the 2 drivers finishing first and second, and a British driver winning the British Grand Prix here at Brands Hatch for the first time since Jim Clark. Have you got a message for Frank?
Yeah, just truly magnificent. I mean, the little problems we had, Frank, and I mean the team. I think the pit stops for both Nelson and I must have been of equal timing, and I know how quick mine was because when I came out I was just in front of Nelson. Very, very good indeed. Fantastic, Frank.
Nigel, I think we should hand you back to your public. I've never seen a bigger crowd at Brands Hatch. I've never seen a happier crowd at Brands Hatch. Here's hoping you can go all the way this season, with apologies to Nelson.
Well, we'll just take every race as it comes, and if it's meant to be, then it will happen.